Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Beacon in the Storm. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest for you. I have Robert Lambert. Hey there, Rob. How's it going?
Hey, I'm great, Bradford. I'm just lucky to be alive. Every day's a blessing.
Absolutely. Where do you hail from, Bob?
I am from north of Chicago, a community called Libertyville, about 12 miles from what we affectionately call the Cheddar Curtain, which is the Wisconsin border.
Beautiful. Hopefully it's not too cold up there for you today.
Yep. Yeah, we're having a great fall day.
Beautiful. All right, Bob. So why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself, and then we can go into the interview from there, all right?
Absolutely. Well, I am a child of God, a husband, a father, and a grandfather.
Wonderful.
And right now, I'm involved in three different companies: QCSS Incorporated, which is a call center operation and sales training. Number two is I have a podcast called faithmarketplace.com, which I've been on now for going on 12 years, and where I interview individuals of faith and how they integrate their faith and work. And last is G7 Networking, which is a Christian networking organization, which I started the first chapters here in Chicago, and now we're in 11 states.
Fantastic. All right. Look at you. How do you have time to do any of this?
God has blessed me with a lot of energy.
There you go.
You know?
All right.
And also, those are callings. I mean, I am absolutely called to do these things. God has blessed me to be on this earth for 76 years. So it's time to really give that back.
Wonderful. All right. Now, you and I have spoken before, Bob, about kind of the purpose of my show, and I'm working to lead men to the Lord.
Yep.
And I always want to start with, what does it mean to be a man? So maybe you can answer that for us.
Well, what it means to be a man, in my estimation, is that you live your life with integrity. Obviously, if you're a person of faith, how do you walk that out? The other thing is, which is a tough one for me sometimes, is walk in humility, because that's the representation of Christ and how people can be drawn to that. The other thing, too, is if you are a person of faith and you are a family man, it's how do you take care of your family and your friends and extended, beyond that. So I'm constantly praying on that.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess before we talk about how do we lead men to Jesus, because it sounds like you're actively engaged in doing that, why is faith so important? Why do we need to have faith in the first place in the Lord?
Well, I saw a bumper sticker that kind of illustrates it all. Atheism, what's the point? So the idea of this is that if you don't have faith, and believe me, I was one that wandered in the desert for 36 years. I was without faith whatsoever and was blessed to come back to the Lord in 2001. So it's very meaningful for me to have faith, and also the fact that I can look back over those 36 years and realize that God was carrying me that whole time. I shouldn't be here talking to you right now. So all the glory be to Him. But that's why I believe it's important. What are you going to hang on to when you're in trouble? What are you going to hang on to when you're deep in it? And then also, what are you going to give glory to as far as any gratitude? If you're having success and you're having, great friendships, marriage, kids, and so on and so forth, who are you going to give gratitude for with that? I think sometimes that's forgotten. I know that I've forgotten it in the past. But now I'm very aware of the fact where that comes from. So again, I don't care what faith you have. I happen to believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of the major faiths all point to the same direction. That's God. So,
okay. So right before we started, I laid out all the questions I was about to ask you. I'm actually about to take them out of order now, because
Sure.
You just brought up the fact that you wandered in the desert for 36 years and then you found your faith again. So maybe you can tell us a little anecdote of kind of your experience, because that happens, right? Not everybody
Yep.
is perfectly religious all the time, every moment of their life. Sometimes we have moments where we fall off the wagon. How did you
Yep.
find your way back?
It's a great question. It was really through what I call my three kings. They were business executives that I knew. They didn't know each other. And I have to tell you, Brad, what really was impressive to me is how these guys spoke, how they treated other people, their family lives, the friends they had. And I had no clue what that was. And finally, the lead king I had here in Chicago that really led me to the Lord. That was a pretty hard case, and he knew that. So he gently dripped on me along the way, and I finally got it. And so that was the starting point. That was really how it really came about, was these three gentlemen. Now, finally, I connected the dots that they're all Christian. But yeah, I was, at age 17, I walked away from everything. I was born in a very Roman Catholic family. I was the oldest of 23 grandchildren. I had priests, nuns, and monks in my family. I was expected to go in the priesthood. Broke my grandmother's heart when I announced, no, Grandma, I like girls. That's not happening. And just totally made a left-hand turn. I walked away from everything. And then my early 50s was able to find my way back to the Lord through the help of these three men.
Okay. So would you say mentorship is important for someone who may have fallen out of the faith to come back in?
Yes. And for me, it was getting it. Now, for other people, we gotta help these young people oftentimes, and other people that do not have faith, or they're wandering. They really are seeking. They don't really know what that means. And frankly, it was through example that these men really guided me back, and like I said, my lead king really took a lot of time with me, was very patient, and brought me back. And then I was very blessed when I did come back to the Lord, that I got met a couple that was just cycling out of Campus Crusade for Christ into adult ministry. And they took me through Bill Bright's program for almost a year and a half. And that was really, really incredible for me, and then the other part of that was that I got introduced to C12, which is a peer-to-peer business, Christian business group. That really put it over the top. It completely changed my whole perspective of business, and really understood what it means to build a God-honoring kingdom business.
Okay, so it sounds like you surrounded yourself with Christendom again, is what happened, and that brought you back.
Yep.
And before that, I'm trying to nail down what is the impetus that made you make that decision to come back. You said you had your three kings and you saw their example, but was there a moment you're like, maybe I need to get back into it? What? Because I want to maybe for some guy out there, they were raised in the faith, but they went to college and they had that experience, and now if they could just have that moment, what is that moment?
That moment for me was, I had a hole in my soul you could drive a Mack truck through. And I knew that because of the foundational stuff I had, growing up, but I just lost my way, So for me, that was this aching, constant, it's hard to explain it, but it's just one of those things that I knew internally, and I knew for myself that I needed to get back. I had to have some guardrails. I had to have something I could hang on to, because I was just living absent of any of that. And so it was my own self-revelation for some period of time that I was wandering. I really was lost. So
I appreciate the vulnerability and opening up. Thank you so much. Okay, now let's get back to my questions. Purpose of my show is to lead men to the Lord, and I'm probably targeting more people who were never in the faith, or were never really exposed to the faith, or never taught in the faith. What can we do as Christians to help them find the way to Christ?
Well, I think you take, if you've done any study in apologetics, it's really getting in, and frankly, the root of all that apologetics is Socratic questioning. It's not to preach at people. It's not, you can use your testimony, which I have many times, as to how I fell away and what brought me back, as maybe a inquisitive point, or something that somebody would be interested in hearing more about. But it's always to find out first, where are these people coming from? Where are they at? What do they believe in? Is Jesus Christ somebody that was real to them, or was he a lunatic, or just somebody that was just made up? And so you find out, that Roman road, as we call it, to take people through that. I was taken through it and asked those profound questions. And it was like, I had to really start thinking, and what does it really mean for me to come back to faith and be understand that I've been saved.
Sure.
So, again, by example, if you can do that and be somebody that is also humble and reaching out and supporting and helping people in any way you can, without anything in return. I find that people find that, they're really skeptical of that. is this real? Is this guy really going to help me, or is he really going to support me without expecting anything back? And I try to, really enforce that as much as I can, that there's no agenda here. If I help you, whatever way that is, I'm not expecting anything in return.
Isn't it a sad state of the world that skepticism is so prevalent?
Yeah, we could do a whole show on that. But I want to offer some encouragement. Because of my radio program, I've been exposed to something a lot of people don't realize. The tech industry is exploding with what they call employee resource groups that are Christian, and it's all over the world. And I've had the privilege and honor of interviewing major tech employees or executives that are part of this whole network and what's going on. And I am just amazed at that, and I've been sharing that with a lot of people, Faith, that they have no clue. So to me, that's hope.
Yeah.
That's hope.
Yeah,
Back in March, I walked into a room in Microsoft headquarters here in Chicago. There was over 70 people in there. It was called a Work in Faith, event, and I was the oldest guy in the room. I got to tell you, Bradford, the average age was about 30.
Wow.
And they were from all walks of the tech industry and also major consulting firms. PwC was there, Deloitte, representatives from Deloitte. So I'm a guy that's the glass is more than half full, Yeah. So if I can encourage your listeners and let people know, there's a lot of stuff that's going on out there that gives a lot of hope.
No, that's fantastic. Because I recall when we spoke before, you mentioned Silicon Valley is like really popping with the faith. And I'm sitting here like, really, Silicon Valley, the dark heart of California? Like,
Yep. I was shocked too, believe me, when I heard it. But these are very prominent people within that community, and they're making no qualms about it, where they're coming from. And they're leading other employees and, team members and all that to the Lord. It's amazing.
That's beautiful. That is so wonderful. All right. How about on your end? You mentioned you have your show, your radio show. You also have C7. Why don't you tell us a little bit about them and kind of how you are working to promote the word?
Yeah, God blessed me back about 13 years ago that a gentleman in my community that was in radio, we were celebrating what I call the eighth wonder of the world, the birth of his first child. And we were out to lunch. I invited him out to lunch. But, Bradford, at that time, I was really struggling where God wanted me. Bible study groups, I was in those. I didn't really particularly want to lead, which was uncharacteristic of me. Marriage and all the other things, missions. I admire and inspired by all of those things, but I just wasn't drawn to that. And so when I was meeting with this gentleman, his name's Jim, that was in the local radio station and had spent about 25 years in radio. All of a sudden, he looks at me and he points his finger at me and goes, "We got an opening on AM 1160 here in Chicago on Saturday, noon to 1 o'clock. Why don't you host a show telling people interviewing people how they connect their faith and work?" And I got to tell you, I'm looking at him and I go, well, I know I don't have the voice, the look. I have the look for radio, but I didn't know I had the voice for it. And he started laughing. And then before I knew it, the Holy Spirit, I don't know, I cannot explain any of the way that it came out of my mouth was I looked at him and I said, well, what do we have to do to get this happening? That was in July. By October of, it was in 13, we started our first show called Faith Marketplace. And because of, and God had it orchestrated all along, man, because all my brothers and sisters in C12 were my guests for about the first year. And so, knowing them and knowing how they're connecting faith and work, it was beautiful. So after the first one, Jim looked at me and he goes, because he was my wingman, I didn't know how to take things in and out on radio. And he said, "How in the world are we ever going to top that?" And I said, "God's got it covered."
That's wonderful.
So that's Faith Marketplace. We've got over 800 interviews. I'm thrilled to announce as of next year, I will have a female co-host. She's Indian by descent. She actually got baptized a second time in the Jordan River. And she is in South Carolina. So we're going to be co-hosting Faith Marketplace going forward. So right. I'm very excited about that. There's going to be some cool things that we're going to do.
Congratulations.
G7 networking you brought up. That's another one that God called me into. I had a lot of prayer on that because he really made it clear to me, okay, the radio or the podcast is in one ear and out the other. You give great tips and ideas and your guests share things. But how are we going to put some, wheels on the street? And that's when G7, I was invited into that. And that's really what it made practical application of how you can really live out your faith in your business, grow spiritually, and grow your business. And those are monthly meetings. We start in prayer. We have gospel reading. We have a testimonial during. It is inclusive, so anybody can join, but they have to be told, here's what you're going to walk into. We are people of faith, and this is what we believe, and this is what we're going to do. The other cool part about that is we help people to focus on relationships first in business before referrals. And, we've grown now into 11 states, over 600 members. It was originally started out of Minneapolis. And then I was invited to start the first chapters outside of Minneapolis, and now it's exploded.
There you go.
God's got his hand all over this.
That is incredible. Great job, Bob. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, or if they wanted to join one of your G7 groups, or maybe even potentially start a chapter, how would they reach out to you?
Well, they can reach out to me. They can go out to g7networking.com. They can look in there. They can connect. It's free. Go in and connect. Look and see if there's a chapter around you or in your area. If not, we have Zooms every week also that people can join. And if you want to then, try it before you buy it, that's fine. If you want to really get connected with a chapter, then you can jump in right there. So again, we're not everywhere across the country, but we invite people in if they are led to become chapter leaders or even regional managers, which I am up here in Chicago. The second way to connect to me is I'm part of QCSS, which is a Christian-led company, which is in the call center industry and also for prospecting, lead generation, also training of how to do this and follow up with it. I sold my business last year and I've been integrated into that. So I'm really excited about the possibilities we got for people with that and growing that out. Wonderful people leadership in that business. Oh, so that's at r.lambert@qcssinc.com.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bob. This has been a wonderful interview. I truly appreciate it. I love the insights. Thank you so much for sharing your personal experience and your journey, because for some people, that's what they need. They need to see other people and what they've gone through in order to be able to relate to themselves.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bradford. I was really looking forward to this show, and particularly you being a guy that's out there paving the way and helping, on a crusade across the country, which is really important. That's bringing men to Christ. A lot of them are lost. We see all the statistics of depression and everything else, and I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson, and I mean he's really nailed it. What we got going on for men, So thank you for what you do. God bless.
Thank you very much. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, keep looking for the light in the tempest. God will show you the way.